I've had such a fun time building a sales team using OpenAI's Agents SDK, which just came out yesterday. And I guess I'm just going to show you how I built it real quick. So this is the entire architecture. We have a list of leads that come in. So this is just people's name and URL for their profile on LinkedIn. And then that gets passed to the first agent, which is the sales team leader. So this agent knows that it has access to employees, and this is the main brain of the operation. And then, there's a sales development representative, like most sales team in real life. And this person, or I guess this agent, has access to one tool, which is to go and scrape the lead's profile and bring back extracted information about the lead. And then once that's done, go back to the sales team leader and say, hey, I am done. And then I have another agent on the right side here called the email writer specialist. So this agent's sole responsibility is to write cold emails personalized based on the person's profile, which actually has to come from the sales development rep. And then finally, it also have to go back to the sales team leader and then report that, hey, I am done with my job. And throughout this whole thing, you'll see you see on here, there's a bounding box that says shared context. So this is just like the shared memory for each agent to have access to. But I'll get into that real quick because there's a caveat to that. And before I show you the demo, I want to give you some tips. Maybe you're gonna leave this video right now, so this is all the things you should know that I had to learn while building this. So handoff is just function calling. Whenever an agent moves on to another agent, that's called handoff in this SDK from OpenAI. And that's just calling the function that literally just says transfer to agent name. If you look under the hood in the code base from OpenAI, it's basically that. So a lot of things here is just function calling. And the context that I mentioned earlier that is shared between all the agents, that is actually not available to the LLM in each of the agents. It's only available for you to have access to when calling tools. And if you want it to be part of the LLM for like maybe reasoning purposes, then you have to add this contact information into the messages history, because that's the only thing that the LLM has access to, unfortunately. So I guess that's one of my biggest gripe with this framework, which is like, why do you not have an easy way for the LLM to have access to the context? I don't know. And then we have the agent prefix, which is just like a prompt that you can put before the actual prompt for the agent, so that the agent knows that it's part of a multi-agent orchestration thing as opposed to like it's on its own. And I can show you what the prompt looks like. If you go to OpenAI's Agents SDK documentation, you go to hands-off, and then you scroll down here where it says recommended prompts. It says that you should import this and then use it and then append it right before the actual prompt. And I will show you my implementation of this as well. Okay, so last but not least, GPT-4o Mini has huge issues with conducting handoffs. If you use GPT-4o Mini, an agent does not know when to move on to the next agent. It just kind of like tries to do more than its responsibility, which is not great. So what you want to do is you want to prompt each agent so that it only sticks to its sole responsibility. So like the sales rep doesn't want to should not be writing emails. But if you use a model that's just too small, like GPT-4o Mini, it will try to do that. Okay, so I'm going to show you a quick demo, and then I'm going to jump into explaining some of the parts and pieces of this code base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just say, I'm going to run this using UV. And then first it's going to pick up the first lead, and I have Ivan, who's a CEO at Notion, in my list. So now the sales team leader has information about Ivan's name and his LinkedIn. And then as you can see here, there's some really nice logging that I put in using like the OpenAI Agents SDK's lifecycle hooks to say like, oh, we know when handoffs happen. Okay, so the terminal thing is cool, but let me show you like this new feature from OpenAI that works out of the box with Agents SDK, which is the tracing and logging screen right here. And as you can see, it's perfectly easy to understand. just at a glance, you can tell that the sales team lead start first, and then the sales development rep, and then the sales team lead, and then cold email specialist, and back to the sales team lead. And then we can just expand each of the runs here, each of the traces here, and then see what's going on behind the scenes. So if you click on any of these things, this is just a call to OpenAI chat completion, or should we call it like the response API, which is a new endpoint compared to like the old chat completion. But this is basically just hitting GPT-4o. So we can see like the instructions, system instruction for the agent, which is just a string prompt, and then this is actually the part of the prefix, which is literally says you are part of the multi-agent system called Agents SDK, and then this is how you do hands-off. You just call a function called transfer to agent, and then now it gets to like the sales team lead's actual prompt, and then we have the first user message, which is when we push in the lead's contact and URL for LinkedIn, and then as we can see, it called the function, which is transfer to sales development rep, just like how the prefix wanted it to do. When you want to hand off to some other agent, call that function. Okay, so we got that done, and then as you can see, this is really nice trace run of a handoff here, and the handoff options were sales development rep or cold email specialist. And in the prompt for the sales leader, we told it that you can only give it the lead to the sales development rep if we don't have like enough information about the actual contact. So the rep can go and extract the person's LinkedIn. That's why it chose this agent as opposed to this agent. Okay, so that's the job of the sales team lead. At the first step, it's done. Now it's hand off to the sales development rep, who's going to go and extract the LinkedIn profile. So this is where it starts. As you can see, like there are execution time as well. So it takes 2 seconds here for this team lead to decide, and then about 8 seconds for the sales rep to like conduct its research. Okay, so let's open up this tool here. This is a tool called Extract LinkedIn Profile. And I use this service called Scraper API, which I find personally to be the most resilient service to scrape websites like LinkedIn or Amazon, because those sites are very, very hard to scrape, like particularly hard, especially LinkedIn. But I find that with Scraper API, it just works out of the box, and I find that to be rare amongst all the web scraping services out there. So it ran this tool, Extract LinkedIn Profile. It grabs the URL, it runs Scraper APIs, and Scraper API has this new feature that came out recently that gives you clean markdown, and this is supposed to be for training LLMs. So very clean markdown from websites, not just like HTML tags everywhere. That's why my extraction has an easy time to do extraction here. So we can see that we got the role, the company, the industry, the title of his role, everything about this particular lead, who's Ivan from Notion. And then once that's done, it's going to hand off back to the sales team lead. And then once we're back here, now sales team lead thinks a little bit and be like, okay, so I guess we have to like move on to the email specialist. So it hands off to the email specialist. And then now the email specialist, what it does is it detects the information about the user. Now we'll explain in the code a little bit where it gets the information from. It's actually the context, the shared context that has been pushing data to, and then this can pull from that. And it was able to write an email based on Ivan's profile, so it can like personalize the email the way that he would respond to. He probably won't, but this is the thesis for most AI, SDR, AI sales rep companies here, so we're just going to ride with that. So, hi Ivan, congratulations for reaching 100 million users at Notion, blah, 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 because it knows information about who he is. So, it looks like a decent email, short enough. And then once that's done, the email specialist handed it back to the sales team lead down here. And as you can see in the messages history, we have everything. So the message history is shared between all the agents throughout the entire ordeal. And then at the very end of this cold email specialist, you can see it ran transfer to sales team lead here. So that's back to the sales team lead. Sales team lead looks at the entire conversation history and decides that, okay, we have accomplished the task. So it output back the final response to the entire flow that says personalized outreach to Ivan Zhao has been drafted. Please review and send it at your convenience. Let me know. Okay, so that's pretty much done. So very easy to understand, right? And just as easy to build it. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. Okay, so when you go to this code base, just go to multi-agents file right here. And I'm going to explain to you pretty much everything that's happening here. So once you're in here, this is where the agents are declared. So very straightforward, very abstracted. So you just gotta import agent from the Agents SDK, and then you put in a context, and the context can have like a shape, like a Pydantic class or data class. So let's just go in here and see what it looks like. This is a data class, and you can have like these properties here. So what's happening here is we're gonna keep these information in between agents runs. So name of the prospect, so Ivan Zhao. LinkedIn URL, which comes from the lead list, and then profile data, which is supposed to be extracted and then populated by the sales development representative agent, which has the LinkedIn Scraper tool, which taps into Scraper API. And then the email draft, which is supposed to be populated by the agent that's supposed to take care of the outbound email drafting. So that's why we have this thing called sales context here. It's literally just a shape so that we know, okay, so we're pushing data into this particular object. And then for the agent, we're just gonna give it a name, and then we're gonna give it some instructions. This is the system message for the agent. And then I could have just put in this, which is the actual prompt for the agent. I can show you what that looks like. And it literally just says, you are the sales team lead, responsible for managing sales workflow, your job, and then blah, 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 blah. You have access to the other agents. Easy, right? But you also want to put in this, because this is the multi-agent orchestration. You want to put in this, and you can read this as well. This is recommended by OpenAI to put in, and all you have to do is just import it from agents.extensions.handoff prompt. So now it has more context about, oh, I'm part of this multi-agents framework. I'm not just working by myself. So there's a higher chance that it'll actually hand off. But from my experience, if you put GPT-4o Mini here, it doesn't actually hand off to anybody. But GPT-4o is fine. And then we do the same thing for the other two agents. So we have the sales development rep, which has one tool, right? One tool to go and scrape people's LinkedIn profile. Let me just open up the tool real quick to show you. So to create a tool that is accessible to agents in this framework, you just import the function tool decorator from the Agents SDK framework library, and you decorate it right here. And then now everything about the function. So like this is just a regular Python function. Now like the function's name, the function's parameters, arguments, and their types are now converted to a tool schema. So like OpenAI's function to a tool calling schema. This is exactly that. You don't have to declare the schema separately anymore. It'll automatically convert this function into the schema for you. So pretty clean. I'm actually not sure if it takes in docstring, but I think it'd be nice if it does. Let me know in the comments if you know this. I didn't read the docs deep enough to figure this out. And in here, I'm gonna declare this very short. This is all you need from Scraper API to hit LinkedIn and then grab information about these prospects, or in this case Ivan from Notion, and then you're just gonna pass in this new thing that they just came out with. So output format, markdown. This could be JSON as well, but here I have markdown so that it came back not as gibberish HTML with a bunch of tags, but actually clean human readable text, so that from there I can pass the markdown over to this other function that does extraction. So this is basically a classical, using LLM to do extraction kind of function that looks at the markdown that came from Ivan's LinkedIn profile. Kudos to Scraper API. And then using a strict mode schema, JSON schema, which is here. And then you can see, we get the role, company, industry, experience, and then each one has its own type, and then it's going to be able to extract all that easily. So that's how the whole LinkedIn scraping and extraction works. Let's go back to the And then, last but not least, so, once we got all the information about the prospect, then we're gonna have to update our context object with that particular information. So this is how you update the context object. You first have to declare one of your arguments in the tool or in this case your function, to have this type. So it's runner context wrapper, which is imported again from the Agents SDK, and then you can pass in the class that defines your the context object, so that you have type checks when you extract it or destructure it. And then now I put it into an argument. I call it wrapper, and this wrapper, I have this property for context. That's the context object, and then I can from there extract out the value of the dictionary, that is the context object. And this also has this thing called usage. So you can actually have access to kind of like information about like tokens usage and all that stuff. So there's context and there's usage. So you can always keep track of like how many tokens you've used. So check out the documentation for more information. Okay, so now that's done. That's how it works. And then we're gonna go back to here, the cold email specialist. So we have like this agent has one tool, which is to write emails. It's all existence meanings is just to go and write emails basically. Let's go check out that tool real quick. Basically an OpenAI call that says, you are an email writer, and then from the context, grab the person's name and the person's profile data. As you can see from the last file we just looked at, the profile data will be populated by the tool that the sales development representative agent uses to scrape the LinkedIn profile. It will finally then update the profile data key in the context. And this can just pull in, and now it has the profile of the person in this prompt here. And then just some instructions to write a proper email to that person. And we're going to be using GPT-4o here and make a call to the OpenAI's new response API endpoint. Very, very straightforward. Like there's nothing to talk about here. And then finally, of course, we're going to go back and update our context again. And then it'll just be like a different key. So email draft is equal to like the email that is generated from the email writer. And one thing that I like about the new response API is that, like, look at how clean this is. This used to be like response.choices, like index 0, blah, blah, blah. But now we can just do output text, and we get the text from some GPT-4o mini. It's cleaner, and I like that. Okay, going back to the main file here, this is where we declare the handoffs. And you could have declared handoffs very simply by doing hands off here, and then you can have an array of like all the agents that you want to pass in. However, I had to do it down here because it's kind of circular. So the team lead hands off goes to either the cold email specialist or the sales development rep. But then the sales development rep also has to go back to the sales team lead. So I had to like declare it down here. This still works. And this is just, so if you're wondering what this is like a handoff method here. That just allows me to kind of like pass in a callback. So if you don't do anything when like an agent pass on to another agent, you can declare a function, and then you can pass that into the callback. And this function has access to the global context, like any function, like any of the tools that the agents use, which is pretty neat. And then I'm just gonna run this, and this is how you run the agent. You just do runner.run, and then this is an asynchronous run. So if you want to run like synchronously, you can do run sync. That's why I have a wait here, because this is asynchronous. And then this will take the starting agent, and we pass in the team lead. Obviously, we're gonna start with the team lead, and then we have an input here, and the input is just like we have a new lead, name, Ivan, and then LinkedIn URL is from Ivan, and then please coordinate with the process to research this lead and create personalized outreach email. So in this instruction, the very first instruction for the entire team here, it says the mission is to go and process this, research this lead using their LinkedIn URL, and then personalize outreach email. If it didn't say personalized outreach email down here, the sales team lead probably won't even go to the email writer. It'll just stop at the agent that researched the lead, and then that'll be done. So every word in here counts. And then we have the context here, which is the context object that we initialize with no profile data and no email draft, and then we have the URL and just the name. And then max turns, sometimes agents can run in the loop, especially when things fail and you don't have like a fallback or a catch. For example, when I had the agent for email generation fail, I didn't have a catch. So it just keeps running and then asking itself, and it keeps running over and over until max turn is reached. And then if you don't have one of these, it'll just run infinitely, I'm assuming. I haven't run into that issue yet, but. And then we're just gonna display like the final results in our terminal. You've seen that before. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then if you want to take this code base and run with it, I have like a utility function in here that kind of like, if you have let's say let's say if you have like a bunch of leads, kind of like this, and not just one person, you can run like here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 leads. You can run 4 agents at the same time, and they'll just go through the same like kind of like decision flow, and then give you like the final results all at the same time, all at once at the very end. So you can run a pretty a parallelized fake parallel flow of like research and then email generation. So yeah, take this code base, give it a shot. I'm really excited to see the OpenAI Agents SDK come out with like the TypeScript version of this, so I can try it out. But I'm liking it so far. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And I guess I'm a YouTuber now, so I have to say like and subscribe. So yeah, stay tuned for the next video. I'll be making way more videos about this stuff. So yeah, thanks for watching.